Hey everybody, it's Matty C. In case you don't know me, I'm a longtime fan, supporter, and occasional volunteer for Stand Up. Pete was kind enough to allow me to take a minute to tell you about my upcoming house concert tour. I'll be playing a series of intimate acoustic shows across the eastern U.S. in the first half of July. These shows are happening in backyards, historic buildings, recording studios, and even the former site of a World's Fair. I'll be playing songs from throughout my long career in the stick-arounds, Harbor Coat, and the Pantones. It has been a lifelong dream of mine to go on a tour like this and earn a part of my income from my music. This is an exciting but terrifying leap, and I would love it so much if you would join me out there and support me at one of these stops. You can find more information on all of the dates at phono4records.com/house shows. Pete, thank you so much for letting me share. I really appreciate it. Cheers, y'all. Matty C.
Stand up.
From a defabricated solar-powered garden shed in Rockland County, New York, USA, this is Stand Up with Pete Dominic. On today's episode, how to feign ignorance when your latest barbecue venture just gave your mother-in-law Campylobacter. And now, the podcast host who has no worries for such things because he does not eat chicken sushi, Pete Dominic!
That's right, Pete Code. Thank you very much. Good to have you back. No, I am strictly steak sushi guy, and there's nothing you can do about it. Don't know what any of that means, but I'm very happy to have you listening to today's episode of Stand Up, where I am featuring a wonderful conversation with Maura Quint, who I often talk to on Mondays, recapping a whole bunch of the news and controversies in the past week. I think you're going to really like my conversation with Maura today. We really dug deep into some of the ridiculous stuff that we've been hearing about in the media and culture. It's always a great conversation with writer, activist, all-around amazing, hilarious person, Maura Quint. I just want to take a quick moment to thank everybody who's reached out to me to say kind words and encouragement and thank you and edited their pledge on Patreon up because of your noticing my efforts to put out even more and exciting new programming, including all of the Can You Talk Real Quick programs that I've been dropping over the weekend with Bill Boyle and then Dr. Colin Clark of the Sufan Group. And so much more. I really appreciate everybody who's reached out. It means a lot when you put in a lot of work and it gets noticed. That matters. Zach Murphy also sent a real nice email, said, Pete, you're great. Also, I am. Hey, in the most recent Bill Boyle interview toward the end, you asked him essentially how he would plan to continue keep up on the events in Russia. This is an unbelievably astute and simple question, and I'm hoping you might think about using it in many more interviews with nearly every expert you talk to. Think of it this way. You just had a 1-hour conversation with somebody, and your listeners are now neck deep in the weeds and with nuance with you. How would you continue to learn more, or who else would you read to and listen to? Is an amazing insight. Keep up the amazing work. Love what you do, what you've done for me and my social conscientiousness. Zach, thank you for the very, very kind email. Mark Nolte reaching out saying, you're killing it. Keep it up. Dan McDonald say, if you haven't noticed an uptick in subscribers, you will. Thank you all very much. There's been a lot more as well, but I want to get to the show that you're here for. How about it? Lots to talk about in the news over the weekend. Just want to mention a few things real quick. I got to get this posted here early on a Monday morning. The least important but kind of funniest and ridiculous headlines I saw is Marjorie Taylor Greene believes her TV is spying on her. She tweeted that last night in my D.C. residence, the television turned on by itself. And the screen showed someone's laptop trying to connect to the TV. She then appeared to allude to the fact that someone may want to cause her physical harm and said, just for the record, I'm very happy. I'm also very healthy and eat well and exercise a lot. I don't smoke and I never have. I don't take any medications. I'm not vaccinated, so I'm not concerned about blood clots, heart conditions, strokes, or anything else. Nobody really knows what she's talking about, but that is par for the course. Speaking of crazy people, yesterday, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Posted clips of him doing bench presses, like 9 bench presses with not a lot of weight, and then almost 10 push-ups, which is really weird because it didn't look like he was doing a lot of work, but he seems to be in pretty good shape, where he captioned his photos and videos, getting in shape for my debates with President Biden. President Biden, of course, ignoring those calls for debates, even though a majority of Democrats wants to see them debate, apparently, but doubtful it's going to happen. He is in great shape, though. So more importantly, however, what is happening in Russia? Prepare for the fall of Putin is what it says at the top of the Drudge Report. Russia could go from Vlad to worse. Enemies circle. Monster turns against master. U.S. allies brace for what comes next. Worst daily Air Force losses of war. 39 pilots killed by Wagner. How about that? Man, the Russians killing each other at rates higher than at least the Air Force than the Ukrainians have been. Kremlin officials meet in Beijing after threat. U.S. spy agencies knew something was up before mutiny. All kinds of different headlines to explore on this issue. And, of course, Fox's Maria Bartiromo is accusing the White House of drumming up the Russia uprising to distract from Hunter Biden's blockbuster WhatsApp message. So, of course, there's that as well. All right, how about a few sound bites to get you started here on a Monday? First of all, I thought this was interesting. This is Chris Christie on Fox News talking to Howard Kurtz.
Once Trump started hitting back at you on a number of fronts, he took aim at your weight. What was your reaction to that?
Oh, well, like he's some Adonis? I mean, please. Look, Howie, there are tens of millions of Americans out in your audience watching right now who, like me, have struggled with their weight. I continue to struggle. I continue to try to do better, and so do they. And what's that got to do with my competence for office? I ran the governorship of New Jersey for 8 years, I think in a very energetic, successful way, responded to Hurricane Sandy, working 20 hours a day for weeks. I don't know what his point is. You know what it is? It's like a child. It's a bully on the schoolyard who teases you and makes fun of you. But here's my message to him. I don't care what he says about me, and I don't care what he thinks about me. And he should take a look in the mirror every once in a while. Maybe he dropped the weight thing off of his list of criticisms.
Right. You haven't exactly been secret about it.
Okay, there you go. And speaking of President Trump, I almost never play anything he says. You don't hear his voice here, but I will play a reaction to what Chris Christie said from President Trump. This is actual audio. That's all I can tell you. This is actual audio of President Trump at some kind of a conference over the weekend. He really did that. That was just like a 3-second thing, but he really did do that in Michigan. And some smart aleck caught just that part and released it, and it was it's fantastic. It's gone absolutely viral. So wanted to make sure that you heard it so that you could go on with your day. Oh, and you got to hear this guy. His name is Perry Johnson. He was at the Faith and Freedom Conference, I guess, in D.C. last week. He's running for president on the Republican ticket as well. And this is, well, here he is.
By golly, we are the greatest country that ever lived, and let's keep it that way. Hey, 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 let's do it. Let's do it now, because we are going to win this next election. Let's do it. By golly.
What the fuck? All right, his name is Perry Johnson. He's a businessman running for president. If you haven't heard of him, there you go. That's probably all you'll hear from him. And let's get to something more important. Here is Jonathan Carroll on ABC's This Week talking to the Secretary of State. His name is, of course, Antony Blinken, about what is happening in Russia, Ukraine.
You've been briefed this morning. What can you tell us about the very latest in the situation on the ground in Russia?
John, look, it's still a moving picture, and I doubt we've seen the last act. And I also don't want to speculate, because it is something that continues to move. But I think we can say this much. First, we've seen some very serious cracks emerge. You have Prigozhin publicly questioning the very premise for this Russian aggression against Ukraine in the first place, the notion that somehow Ukraine or NATO presented a threat to Russia. You have someone challenging Putin's leadership very publicly and very openly. And of course, if you put this in context, 16 months ago, Putin was on the doorstep of Kyiv in Ukraine, looking to take the city in a matter of days, erase the country from the map. Now he's had to defend Moscow, Russia's capital, against a mercenary of his own making. So I think this is clearly, we see cracks emerging. Where they go, if anywhere, when they get there, very hard to say. I don't want to speculate on it. But I don't think we've seen the final act.
All right. Well, Anthony Blinken, that's the Secretary of State. He was also on Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan, who asked him this.
But is the U.S. prepared for the potential of the fall of the Putin government? And is their nuclear stockpile, the largest in the world, secure?
We always prepare for every contingency. In terms of what happens in Russia, it's an internal matter for the Russians to figure out. Of course, when we're dealing with a major power, and especially a major power that has nuclear weapons, that's something that's of concern, something we're very focused on. We haven't seen any change in Russia's nuclear posture. There hasn't been any change in ours, but it's something we're going to watch very, very carefully.
All right. Well, it's something you're going to watch very, very carefully. That's good. Thanks for watching it very, very carefully. Hopefully nothing happens while you're being so careful. I don't know what I'm insinuating he's supposed to do. The hell do I know? I'm not the Secretary of State. You know who does know a thing or two? Former Admiral James Stavridis. He has been on this program many times, and he was on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd, whose days are numbered. He's announced that he's leaving. But I thought this was great analysis from retired Admiral James Stavridis. About 2 minutes I wanted to share with you.
What do you think we're seeing inside the Russian military leadership right now?
Continuing chaos, really of a piece, Chuck, with everything we've seen since the start of the war. You've seen terrible logistics, bad intelligence, bad leadership on the battlefield, casual use of cell phones. In fact, these events of the last couple of days will have unearthed a treasure trove of intelligence for the United States military. In terms of Prigozhin, I couldn't agree more with Ann. You know, the Game of Thrones philosophy applies here. If you go for the king, you better kill the king. Prigozhin didn't do that. He now is going to be isolated from the 35,000 fighters that have protected him. He's like a snake whose head has been cut off from its body. I don't think he'll last 60, 90 days, frankly, because Putin, at his dark heart, is a never forgive, never forget kind of person. He'll do everything he can to wreak vengeance on Prigozhin.
Do you expect this to have an impact on Russia's ability to wage war in Ukraine?
Oh, indeed. There's the moral function of this, the internal. Picture yourself as a Russian conscript watching all this unfold, and they are doing so on the internet. They have access. Number two, the material that has gone into the backing and forthing here is going to be denied. Number three, leadership changes potentially. As Mike McFaul said, watch what happens to Shoigu. Does he stay in power? Is he part of the deal? I don't know the answer. No one does. So bottom line here, been a very good turn of events for Kyiv. Still a tough fight ahead, but I think this is one that ups the game for the Ukrainians, Chuck.
All right. Well, there you go. Some sound bites for you, some news for you, and finally, and most importantly, disgraced former cyclist Lance Armstrong has decided to tweet and weigh in on the trans folks competing in sports debate, saying we should at least have a debate without destroying each other. It tried to, wade in thoughtfully, and he was immediately destroyed. Someone wrote, if Lance Armstrong actually believed people are pretending to be trans to cheat at sports, he would have tried it already. And someone else wrote, the ball on this guy. Okay, well, I talk about that and much more with my guest Maura Quint coming up. Other headlines, Donald Trump diverting more of the money that he's raised for his presidential campaign to a political action committee that he's used to pay his legal fees. He also took credit for the Supreme Court appointments that overturned Roe v. Wade. President Biden, for his part, trying to rally Democratic voters on abortion rights. Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption trial has started up. 3 San Antonio police officers are facing murder charges after the police there shot a 46-year-old woman to death in her home. And at least 7 freight cars fell into the Yellowstone River after a train derailed and a bridge collapsed in Montana. And looking at the week ahead, Guatemala and Greece are holding elections yesterday. The Supreme Court will issue rulings on Tuesday and likely other days this week. Major opinions are expected on college admissions, student loans, and other issues. Walt Nauta, the aide charged alongside Trump in his classified documents case, will be arraigned on Tuesday. The Screen Actors Guild could go on strike if no deal is reached by midnight on Friday. And the Tour de France, speaking of Lance Armstrong's cycling premier annual race, begins this Saturday. All right, that's all the news I've got for you. Now it's time to get to my conversation with Maura Quint, which I think is one of the best ones we've had in a while. I really liked it. We had a lot of laughs and some really interesting analysis from her, I think, and it's always great. Maura is on Twitter at Behind Your Back, where she is a very, very big influencer over there, now on TikTok as well. You should follow her there. She's the campaign chair at Americans for Tax Fairness, the co-creator of Tax March, and really great when it comes to wealth and income inequality, tax policy, and so much more. And we talk a little bit about that as always. Always love my conversations with Maura Quint, who's become a very good friend of mine and yours. And she is joining me right now. Posting this on a Monday, as we love to with you, to recap kind of some of the things that happened over the week, get your thoughts on it, and then talk about other rando things. Now, you, of course, are a Russian expert. What did you think of Prigozhin's drive forward, and I guess it's being called mutiny attempt on Vladimir Putin?
Yes, I have a lot of thoughts on that. Let's start with Prigozhin. Is that a pastry? That's a pastry, right? Like that's filled with cream, I think.
Yes.
It's delicious. It's wonderful. Yes. And I heavily support that 100%.
You support the pastry going to overthrow
I think pastry
Putin?
Should go everywhere, Pete. They should be absolutely allowed to go wherever they choose. They should take over. Think of any meeting. Someone brings in pastries. That's it. That now has command of the room, right? You know it instantly.
And that person reputation is solidified for the public.
Oh, absolutely.
The pastry delivery person.
Absolutely. It is a PR extravaganza. It is what I have no idea. Can we trust anything that we're hearing? Do we know what's going on?
Yeah,
or isn't it all just kind of like,
I think so.
Yeah?
I do. You don't think so? You seemed like your top line concern was the primary concern of a lot of people that were paying some attention, which was, when will we be vaporized?
Oh, well, that's just a general sort of thought. I mean, right. Like you've got a crazy person with a lot of nuclear capability. And so I just think that could happen at any moment. And what I don't want is I don't want to hear about it. Like just keep me out of it. I don't think that's anything I need to worry myself with. Either it'll happen or it won't. It's like being concerned you're going to break a bone. Like, you just got to live your life, man.
Right.
And if that happens, then, well, that's great. Then we deal with it then. Then we deal with the vapor. But otherwise,
then we deal with it. I think we'll be vaporized. It'll be harder to deal with, at least.
Well, that sounds fun. Wonderful. What if it's not, though? What if we're all like vaporized and then we carry on this like existence, but in particles, still just like screaming and, and freaked out about stupid things and, like just being like, I hate this. Like, I don't know.
Am I high? Are you high?
What if our particles have consciousness? I should be high. I would love to be high. That sounds perfect.
When you say, can we trust it? Are you being serious in that you're not sure what to believe, which is a fair and skeptical concern? But I feel like if you, curated certain news sources that you feel have been generally credible, you can trust where they come out. What are you saying there?
I mean, I do in general think that you have to sort of be very thoughtful and careful about who's reporting you trust and from where. And when I say, can we trust it? It's that Russia is this kind of dense entity. And there's so much sort of, I know that, like Russia Today and like there's a lot of sort of state-based influence there.
Sure.
And so, I mean, I'm sure there are very trustworthy sources, but I guess I don't know. I had not curated my life to know exactly who to go for Russian news.
Oh, I have.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
You got a guy. Is it Yakov Smirnov?
I interviewed him.
You like that real topical reference I pulled there?
I interviewed him once, and he was like really thoughtful, and I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with him. It was a really interesting guy.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Well, I mean, you saw a video of a person talking, this general, the guy who owns the private mercenary group. And he said a whole bunch of things. I took that at face value. Could it be some kind of chess move that he's trying to get us, the public or the people in power in Russia to fellow oligarchs, I suppose. But I believed that was that guy saying that. I didn't think it was a deep fake.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, I don't think it's a deep fake, but I don't feel comfortable that I know who the players are and what their motivations are. And so I've heard that, through the grapevine of nothing, I've basically heard that the group challenging the power, they're also terrible and nobody wants them to hold on to anything. And so that the best possible outcome would be just this knowledge that there is a crack might allow this sort of underground swell to suddenly come up of actual, I don't know what to even call, but this sort of social unrest to sort of actually boil to the surface. And that could potentially create some sort of change. But it seems very...
I think I think that the ultimate goal, first of all, there's no good players here. Prigozhin reportedly would have people who he considered traitors beaten with sledgehammers. So he's a terrible guy.
That's one on the plus side.
Yeah. And he deals in, African blood diamonds. That's where he gets his money from. Anyway, but the point is, I guess the question for a lot of people is, would a different leader of Russia not invade other countries, perhaps, or stop the war, at least in Ukraine? I feel like that's the big question, because Putin never should have done this, and he lost miserably, and he may, lose power as a result, when if he hadn't done it, he would still be in power and in good position.
Yeah, I mean... I wish I could even just say Russians, that problem over there. But really, we're just looking at, is anyone who has the momentum and ability to rise to power a good person? And I mean, fundamentally across the world tends not to be the case from our own country looking out. So it is sort of a vast problem of how power is distributed and who rises to grab it and what has been already put forth in terms of what you have to do or what you can do to take it and seize it and hold it.
And I think you can speak to this and have been for a long time. But the reason for that primarily now and always in human history, but certainly.
Is it money? Is it money?
Wealth concentration.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically is what I was going to say. How many oligarchs, the word oligarch is such a Russian word, but oligarch could be used about any country's billionaires, I suppose. Maybe they're not all as corrupt as the Russians, perhaps. I don't know.
Oh, everybody's corrupt. I mean, the absolute power corrupts absolutely is not a new thing that has come about or something that we are pioneering here today. No, wealth is fully the problem, and wealth continues to be a massive, massive problem. So I don't know. Maybe we should just, at this point, too, what are we going to do? A friend of mine the other day was just even if we had a French Revolution, this is I have to first let me say, this is one of my closest friends, and she used to be on the libertarian spectrum, and over the course of years, this is my only success story, over the course of many, many years of us continuing to have this conversation. And to her credit, she is a very thoughtful person who continues to integrate new information into her ideas. And so, over the course of, I want to say 20 years, out of nowhere, I get this text from her saying, here's the thing. Even if we had some sort of French Revolution and we just started chopping off the heads, our capitalistic structure that is currently in place is so inherently set to just give that money to the next lineage that it wouldn't even matter. She's like, I think we just need to burn it all to the ground and start trading shells again or something. I was like, yeah, I mean, that's where I am too. Mm-hmm. Let's just burn it all to the ground or, nuke it. So go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm not with you too. But
no, I know.
I don't want to burn everything all to the ground. I don't think it's but
I love fire.
Well, speaking of billionaires, I know that you were paying attention to the potential cage match between Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. Thoughts on the potential of that actually happening, the fact that it seems to be an actual conversation between the two of them where Zuckerberg challenged Elon Musk. Zuckerberg, of course, is in great shape and now a martial artist, black belt or something of judo, I think. Elon Musk is in terrible shape. I don't know that he can fight. But this could be happening. Your thoughts? Who are you betting on?
Well, given everything we know about these two people, it's very clear, like Zuckerberg would step into the ring right now, like wherever he is in the world, you just call him and he would wake right up, start punching the air and chug some sort of health conscious, energy fuel, probably based on the tears of children. I don't know what it is that he's currently subsisting off of, but he would do it. And he would do it in the most absurdly earnest way. Earnest, I usually think of as good, but in his case, very bad. But he would absolutely be doing it. And there's no way in the course of this or any lifetime that Elon Musk is actually doing it. He'd say yes. And he'd give a list of 5 things that need to happen in order for it to happen. And even if those things came about, though, he'd never show up. There'd be a date. He would just never show up and be and he'd find someone who had created a meme about it, and he would share that as his excuse or whatever and go about his life. So it's not going to happen, but I would love to see it because there is very little in this world that billionaires have that I want. But the idea of getting to punch a billionaire in the face, I want that. And I'm jealous that is something that is now reserved for other billionaires.
I love your version. My version is much simpler because I think that Elon Musk is a much worse, more corrupt person in so many ways, and that I think at least Zuckerberg has the integrity to fight on the terms agreed upon, and I think Musk would walk into the cage, you'd think they were about to fight, and then a laser would just come kill Mark Zuckerberg, and or a bunch of elves would come flying in, or robots, and Elon Musk would then just light a cigar. He would cheat and murder Mark Zuckerberg with some weapon that he had created by terrible people.
Okay, but here's the thing. If Elon Musk had a laser, that laser would accidentally nuke the whole stadium. If he had a bunch of tiny little robots, they'd just be creating little explosions as they tried to walk down the aisle. The man is he's never actually created anything that hasn't just fully exploded in his fucking face instantly. So he might sit there with the cigar thinking he's about to smoke it, but there's, chaos
very
happening
much like a
him.
Wile E. Coyote type trap he has set, and it just blows up in his own face. And
if there's any billionaire that I could see running flat into a concrete wall because someone had painted a tunnel on it, he is the one. Yes.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so we've analyzed and given you all the color commentary about any hypothetical situation in the Elon Musk-Mark Zuckerberg fight, which just seriously is never, ever going to happen, right? That's what you're saying? Never, ever?
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. Okay. No, I would love it, but no.
Don't get your hopes up. All right, you have been covering or writing or even making fun a lot of the submersible story, which has gotten a tremendous amount of attention. Lots of folks making the point that the billionaires in the water dying get a lot more attention than migrants drowning. Pick up on that thread. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's terrible. It's tragic. It's tragic all around. It's an awful situation. And yes, of course, there's all of these terrible, terrible situations. And the wealth is where the money goes and where the eye goes and where the media goes. And that's what we all look at. And I mean, yes, I've been making jokes about it. Or I had been making jokes about it. And I had to pause myself because the jokes in my head kept coming. And I had to sort of I had to do an internal check of oh, hey, these are, people's lives at the time in danger. And should we be sort of mocking this or making some sort of jokes? And I wound up with, yes, absolutely. I did not feel a tremendous amount of remorse. Normally, when I go towards hey, if you're mocking someone, they're not going to see it, but other people in their circumstances are. And is that what you want to say to them? And so if you're mocking someone's weight, but I'm not making fun of them because they're, I don't think I don't like their body. I'm mocking them because they're a bad person and they just happen to have a bad body. Well, okay, but somebody else who shares a physical characteristic with them who isn't a bad person is going to feel that's all you're targeting. That's a hurtful thing. In this case, what am I saying? Other billionaires with ridiculous follies and beliefs of immortality are going to see it? Good. I hope they do. Although I kind of hope they don't because, I don't want them to.
You want them to have a tragic accident and some kind of very expensive adventure.
I just think we should have sent other billionaires down to find them. Yeah, I think that they're the only ones who can save us from ourselves. So they should have just all kept going. It should have just been a long line, like lemmings off a cliff.
you made one of the jokes you made is things that you tweeted. You tweeted this in public. You said people are making fun of the submarine thing, but if you're not willing to lock yourself in a tube to go after that diamond necklace the old lady threw into the ocean at the end of Titanic, I guess you just don't have that billionaire growth mindset.
Correct. I mean, what are you doing here? Make a choice, man. You get up and you hit the pavement every day, or you deserve to have to work a lot more hours, actually, and be more miserable and not be able to afford to live. Mm-hmm.
You also shared this tweet from someone named Mo Weeks, who wrote, I think about billionaires a lot, kind of my job. So let's say this. Most every billionaire on the planet would happily kill you for an extra few points on their investment. This isn't theoretical. It literally happens. They literally make decisions they know will kill people. True?
Mm-hmm. Oh, every fucking second of every single day. And it is so easy for easy, right? There's a whole structure in place. They would argue it's very not easy. But it's one of those all you really need is the emperor, someone pointing out that the emperor has no clothes. It actually could all be changed if there was desire for it. And these individuals hold a ridiculous, absurd amount of wealth that they cannot even comprehend, let alone ever come close to utilizing or have any need for. And they are doing it because they are basing all of their efforts on the backs of individuals who they are outright exploiting, often killing in many different ways, whether it's just from the straightforward safety conditions that they allow to go unchecked. And so people die from horrific experiences working for these individuals, but also the millions of deaths of despair that are happening because, in large part, because people are put in this place where they cannot live, they cannot exist in any sort of a respectful way or respectable way to themselves. And so they are driven constantly to these sort of awful extremes. And all of that is the fucking billionaires and the choices that they are making every single fucking day. They are murderers without question.
I'm going to put some music up on that behind in post production. That was an awesome rant. You also, this is, I thought, really over the top. Someone tweeted a tourist submarine where each passenger paid $250,000 to explore the Titanic shipwreck at the bottom of the ocean has gone missing. And you quoted the oceans here, and you said, oceans, if you're not going to eat the rich, we fucking will. I think it's too far, Maura. I think what I mean by that is I think it's arrogant for you to speak for the oceans.
Well, I mean, they can't speak. You have to speak for the voiceless. That is an important part of uplifting those who do not have access to a platform and to a voice.
I mean, you're not wrong. I do speak for the coral quite a bit, but I just wouldn't speak for all of the ocean.
All right. Well, look, the Lorax fucked me up. I speak for the trees and everything else. I'm just trying to be out there. The truth is
that there's a lot of truth to your joke, which is that the natural environment can't speak for itself. That's what activism is for. That's what conservation is for. And also, the natural environment is very dangerous and has, in fact, taken the life of a disproportionate amount of very wealthy people, whether they be climbing Everest or any other number of extreme activities that they can afford. And you hear it quite often, people dying in their private planes, or people as some kind of other expedition, billionaires dying in Patagonia, froze to death in a kayaking trip. One of the founders of the company Patagonia, I forget his name.
There is,
he was a good guy though.
Well, yeah. Okay, fine. I mean, people can be good guys in lots of ways while still being terrible pieces.
If you have billions of dollars and you spend the vast majority of it buying and preserving the natural environment, which is what that guy did as a conservationist, I think that's the best thing you can do with your money. Maybe. I don't know.
That does sound pretty defensible. Yeah. There was, something I scrolled past, or someone sent me this as a video, and unfortunately, I do not know the creator's name, or I would certainly credit her. But she was talking about how she worked in, I want to say Vermont or New Hampshire or someplace like that, at this beautiful resort that was very much in the mountains and was really sort of an escape and a paradise in a very expensive place. And she was talking about how wealth corrupts people's brains, which is something I think we see all the time. And because there is so much that wealth can purchase you in terms of comfort and safety that the rest of us do not have access to, it begins to warp people's understanding of who they are and what they actually can do. And it becomes this sort of like, I am invincible belief because I have been able to purchase my way out of any possible problem to this point in my life. And they stop being able to necessarily even conceive of an idea they could not purchase their way out of. And so she would say that there would be these times where, like, you know, we would post or we would state very clearly, do not go off trail, do not go out at these hours. And they would just go. And then, of course, the amount of time and money spent having to then rescue these individuals who would get lost, who would, you know, be in these sort of dire circumstances. But it just would never occur to them that they were mortal and human, and that rules exist for everyone and not just for the peons. And of course, because for most of them, there would be a huge undertaking of public and, you know, private, sometimes money as well, to rescue them. They didn't learn that lesson from these experiences either, but they would endanger, of course, an entire crew of people who had to then go deal with that. But their takeaway remained the same. I am invincible. Nothing bad can happen to me.
I think places like that and even state governments should institute policies where if a billionaire goes lost, or just to be fair, the people who come to find you have to be in the same income strata. So your rescuers also...
So you're like a cased society, but really sort of a
rescuers also have to be super wealthy. So, you know, they better learn to fly helicopters, I guess. But many of them already probably
I was going to say, this just sounds fun for them.
By the way, that guy's name, for folks that might care, Douglas Tompkins, the North Face co-founder, died in a kayaking accident. He was the co-founder of the North Face, and he bought like millions and millions and millions of acres of, mostly, I think, in South America. He's a big conservationist. Anyway.
Isn't that absolutely disgusting, though, and reprehensible that we have to rely on one nice billionaire to buy up privately public lands so that we do not destroy them? Like, what an awful fucking system.
Yeah, well, I mean, otherwise we would exploit, and we already are, obviously, for its natural resources. Yeah, for sure.
And what is doing all of this? Capitalism! Ta-da! That's where I am today.
I mean, it's hard to see it any other way. It's only increasing, it would seem. Okay, so wait, you have to pick one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I already don't like it.
Submersible,
I've never just picked one.
Billionaires submersible, that submersible or one like it, or billionaire dick rocket. You're either going to go shot up in space or go underwater. I put this to everybody that was at our hangout on Thursday night, so you have to answer it too.
I have to choose which one of those I want to do?
Yeah, gun to your head. Like, you're either I kill you now or you go.
You know, like, pull the trigger, man. Gun to my head. That's that.
Oh, you're not going for the you're going to say, wow, I didn't think you could. Wasn't going to. All right.
No, I guess I don't know.
Wow.
This is really hard because here's the thing. I love the ocean. And if I'm going to let nature destroy me, I would love it to be the ocean. That's like a preferred thing. Return my body to the sea. Absolutely. That would make me very happy.
Okay.
But I feel like I'm a little more likely to get out of the rocket than I am the.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably true. But the surface area of your body that will be now touching the sea will be so much more because it'll just be those particles that you talked about because you imploded.
Yeah, which would be amazing. Look, I think the sea is coming for me anyway. You know how all the whales are attacking boats? At this point, yes. I feel as though they're just looking for me. They're like, she is one of us. Return her to the depths.
You think the orcas that are attacking boats are looking for you?
Yeah, I had a lot of French fries last night, man. I am not feeling great. So yeah, that is what I think.
Wanted to also ask you about Meghan McCain and Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, those are names, definitely.
First of all, you tweeted about this. Meghan McCain has attacked Hunter Biden, calling him a Nepo scumbag. And Nepo is a word, I had to look it up. It's nepotism.
Did? That's so adorable.
Nepotism, right?
Yeah.
Meghan McCain calling Hunter Biden a Nepo scumbag is hilarious because I finally stepped into the quicksand childhood had promised and grains are filling my ears and mouth, all tickly and suffocated and glorious, and I'm just so grateful for the earth to finally consume me whole.
I'm in a particular mindset lately. Maybe that's not coming across clearly.
No, we got it. We definitely got it. We're happy to have you here.
I'm tired.
Not consumed.
I'm so tired.
Now, so Meghan McCain attacked Hunter Biden for nepotism of some way, and it's a bizarre lack of self.
It's just so obvious that it's like, oh God, like it's exhausting almost how ridiculous and stupid. Who cares? Meghan McCain is just a worthless human, and I would love for her to be just locked up in like a box with a picture of her dad, and every so often someone can just like put a bottle into the side of it, and she can laugh at it, and that can be her whole life.
That is,
and then
way out of line.
Hunter Biden can have the same thing next to it. Like, I don't know, keep them in there, whatever. They can communicate. They can find a way. They can yell at each other through their box walls. It's fine. Like, I don't care about either of them. And additionally, what is incredibly frustrating is the amount of attention that these nepo babies, these fail sons and daughters, get to employ in our culture. It's a ridiculous thing. And again, hey, something that's helpful? I mean, it's not going to do everything, but something that is helpful is if we just completely rack it back up the estate tax and fully just start implementing a world in which these people actually have to start to engage in some way on their own. Now, that's not going to, eradicate it, because they have so many connections just via their birth that they will be fine. But we cannot, there's no reason for us to just keep handing over these vast, vast fortunes to these people who have never once had to think about what it is to be human or how they should
might operate. Be the only commentator in all of media who can say, I'd like to see these people put into boxes with small feeders like hamsters, and then offer a policy solution.
That's what I'm here for, Pete. That's it. That's what I'm here for.
There's one more Nepo baby that's actually getting a lot of attention undeservedly, and he's running for president as a Democrat because of who his family is, and that's RFK Jr. Any thoughts on his activities this week and last week and every moment?
I mean, I understand we cannot dismiss spectacle in this country because we are so incredibly drawn to spectacle and we elevate it. But I don't even think he's interesting enough spectacle. Like, I don't even think his shenanigans and nonsense is sort of exciting enough to get a lot of people behind him. He's just this, like, he wants to be the clown that pulls our attention. And he's instead just the clown where we go, oh, wow, what a sad choice that you've made in your life. That's how I feel about him. I kind of dismiss him.
You dismiss him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're staring at me right now like, absolutely not. This is...
No, I guess I have one concern about the presidential election, and that it is, if it is in fact Joe Biden and Donald Trump, that Joe Biden could lose because of some third party or fourth party candidates that get on the ballot. That... the No Labels Joe Manchin or RFK or Cornel West, like, I do have some trepidation there.
No, I mean, I think it is always fair to think about these types of things. And it's certainly also understandable people who are saying that, who want to drop out of the two-party system and vote for a third-party candidate. I understand the motivations there, too. And I certainly would never say, like, I would never rant at anyone. However, I believe that if you are going to drop out of the two-party system, you're going to drop out of the two-party system. I don't think it's going to matter who that third-party candidate is, really. And I don't think RFK is I don't think he's pulling anyone who actually has a real faith or belief or in the possibility of this country getting any better.
Right.
So I don't see a lot of like people going, well, I don't like Biden. But he's the best we got on the left. But you know what? I think this RFK guy's got some pretty good ideas. Like, I don't see that happening.
Lance Armstrong put out Lance Armstrong, of course, everybody knows Lance Armstrong, right? But you might not remember that he got caught for cheating and using drugs and really disgraced himself. Then he was featured in a documentary where basically everybody thinks the guy that knows him is an asshole. He's had a real hard time, if he has at all, rehabbing his reputation. But here he is on Twitter saying, I think we need to be able to have a thoughtful conversation about trans people competing in sports, and a couple of other tweets. I find this issue so upsetting that we even need to discuss it, the trans issue. It's such a manufactured issue taking up so much space everywhere. So I hesitate to even bring it up other than to bash him. So I'm just setting you up.
No, I mean, I won't even say like the trans.
By the way, I'm happy to have that debate. I'm happy to have the conversation about trans people in sports, by the way. I just want to say, I think we don't know. People don't have opinions. Let's just have it. Whatever. Go ahead.
No. I mean, those conversations are just people in sports, isn't it? I mean, like, you can't isolate a particular factor segment and then not isolate all of the others. So if we're having a conversation about trans people in sports, let's have a conversation about moneyed people in sports. What about the difference between someone who has been given lessons in private, areas of expertise since they were 3 years old versus someone who just scrapped by and came about and did it on their own and is competing against at the same level? Is that fair? Let's have that conversation first. Let's have all sorts of other conversations first. There's no reason for us to be starting with a conversation about isolating these particular criteria of individuals unless you're going to do all of them and then put that one at the fucking bottom, is my feeling about that. And the other part of this Lance Armstrong bit is just, did we know he was on Twitter? Where did he come from? I mean, what the fuck is up with this dude? Did he take some sort of Twitter steroids and just come up from behind and now we're supposed to accept that he has a voice there? I don't know. It seems pretty fucking suspicious to me.
Like, when did he have a voice that we wanted to listen to again? When did that come back?
I don't think, however he has gotten his voice heard here seems incredibly unfair to me and should probably be investigated by someone. That's all I'm saying. Oh, man. Just asking questions here, Pete.
Oh, I love his. I'm going to go actually see if he's on other platforms. Is he on TikTok? I hope Lance Armstrong's on TikTok. All right, finally, let's end on a fun subject. You had a child's birthday party this weekend. Was it fun? Do you put a lot into the birthday party? It can be quite an affair depending on the age and the
How are you going with like, oh, the whole world is imploding in front of us, but here's something fun, children's birthday parties. I don't think that's the step up. I think, in terms of chaos and, sheer exhaustion and we're right in the same category.
I did not. So anyway.
No, yeah. It was my
Were there
birthday,
casualties?
So. I was a casualty. No, it was fine. My son was turning 10, so the kids there were about 9-10 years old. And as far as a bunch of like hopped up on sugar 9-10-year-olds in arcade go, it was fairly drama free. They were pretty good. It was okay. The thing that I love about children's birthday parties is that slow transition from like when they're little. Like if somebody has a birthday party for like their 1-year-old or their 2-year-old, that parent is there. They are attending to that child at that party, and everybody kind of like knows their place. But I love watching the transition of the like, when can we drop off and get the fuck out and like tell me when to come back?
Yes.
And we're there now. I'm there. Just the 9-10-year-old. It's just assumed. But I loved it at the like 5-6 when you saw the vanguards. You saw the people who were like, no, I know we're not doing this yet, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Somebody has to be the leader. I'm going to start taking that lead. Those people who go like, so what time should I be back? And you can see that they've been practicing saying that. They're like, okay, no, just go in confident. Just go in confident. They'll shut it down if they want. You need to be the change. Be the change. And like, you see they're summoning all of it. Just be like, okay, I'll be back in like 2 hours?
I love that observation and yarn, but I think I thought you might go to the thing that bothered me, the opposite of that, which is those parents who don't know to leave. And I have to say to them, listen, especially if it was at our house or at a venue. Hey, listen, our kids are friends. We aren't actually. And we're not, I don't want to be at all friends with you. Your kid seems cool. You should leave, as opposed to they just stay and they really want to be friends with you. Now, I know I sound like an insensitive, antisocial prick, but there were people that I felt that way, and so I'm just saying that out loud. I never would possibly ever say such a thing, but I did want them to leave and not.
No, that's the worst. The ones who stick around, but they make no pest of themselves, where they're just like, I'm literally just here if there's a problem. I've got my phone. I've got, whatever.
That's fine.
I'm going to step up when the cake is being handed out.
Actually, it's not fine. They're still looking at you and judging you, what you're doing.
That one doesn't bother me. I'm fine. I have no problem sharing space with someone.
I'm doing a lot of inappropriate stuff with the children. Like like fire and weapons.
Sure, of course, yeah. No, I mean, who wouldn't be? Yeah,
fun.
But the parent who's just like, oh, this is my social excursion for the week. I'm so happy to be here, and now let's talk. Oh God, I hate that person more than anything in the entire world, and I will start causing problems. I will go up to the children just so that I have something to do. Right? Like, hey, Timmy, did you see what Jenny was saying about you? Did you see that? Yeah, go confront her. Go do that. Let's get in a fight. I need something else to pull me away from this parent. Just whatever.
Create a diversion.
Absolutely. Suddenly there's cake flying. Nobody knows who threw the first piece. That was me. That was just like, oh, now I've got something to do. Children, let's clean up this mess.
I can literally see you actually doing that, and makes me think that's how you cut your feet. You were at a party, a parent was talking to you, you elbowed a glass off the counter on purpose just to create an issue that you had to solve, and there you go, you're out.
Oh my God, you have no idea. I had a work staff retreat conference last week, Thursday, Friday, and you and I did not discuss this. And we had to do social bonding exercises. So we went bowling with, this group of adults went bowling.
Okay, sounds fun.
I didn't know I did this on purpose until you said it out loud. A glass water carafe. I knocked it off the goddamn counter, went to grab it because that's my instinct, and sliced my finger.
No.
And now I realize that what I was doing, the inside of me was screaming to somehow get out of the conversation that I was having about spreadsheet management. And that is how I must have dealt with it.
Please keep this woman away from lighters. I mean, I'm trying to think of where you might be most dangerous. Water and glass. I'm sorry that happened, but I'm also wildly unsurprised. You love cutting yourself on glass.
No one is surprised at this point. At this point, it's just like, yeah, okay, all right.
They actually, the ER physician sees you walking in, and what'd you drop?
We'll get to how bad is it? Like, they just look at the trail of blood and they're like, all right, bump her up to third line.
Oh, man. How did you handle that in front of all your work mates? That's a social. You don't want that to happen. But like, how do people that you work with in this effort to socialize come to the aid of someone who has lacerated themselves?
Well, that's one of those moments where you go, oh, right. I'm in charge here. I'm not in charge, but I'm somehow in charge here because, I just said, oh, no, it's fine. Don't worry. No, it's fine. And I went to find the like a broom and stuff, and to find staff and to let them know so they could clean up things.
You took care of it all yourself.
Found they had a bin because it was bowling of like socks that you could take, like clean, fresh socks. It was like a fancy place, so they have socks to give you. So I took a sock and wrapped my finger. No one even seemed to notice that I was bleeding profusely.
Huh.
And then I went to find someone else to find if they had a first aid kit, and I fixed myself all up.
I'm
that's
unsurprised by that as well.
That's how I dealt.
There wasn't like some bearing guy from accounting that runs over with a tourniquet. He just rips his belt off. I was like, I got you.
I think everyone looked around to say, who's the grown up here? And then I think everyone, including myself, went, oh, it's Maura.
It's you.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I'm glad you didn't die. I will talk to you next week, and I very much appreciate you.
Love you too.
There she goes, Maura Quint, everybody. At Behind Your Back on Twitter. Follow her on TikTok and support everything that Maura is doing. And that is all I've got for you on today's program. Thank you very much for listening. If you are not already a subscriber, hey, what are you waiting for? Sign up now, patreon.com/Pete Dominic. You can also please review the show on Spotify, on Apple. Send me an email, standupwithpete@gmail.com, and let me know what you want to hear. You can go to the host site or standupwithpete.com. We'll bring you there to find out anything that you've missed in the past few episodes or the archives, and go all the way back to the start if you want. And here's your quote of the day from George Lichtenberg. It's about change. I cannot say whether things will get better if we change, What I can say is they must change if they are to get better. I like it. Thanks, George Lichtenberg. Talk to you tomorrow. Jon Carroll, take us away.
Keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. We got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up. We got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up. You got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand